Please take your seats.
Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul.
Welcome, everybody. Good Yontif.
Good Yontif.
So a word about our setup this evening. This is the second Kol Nidre service we've done tonight. And although we have, I don't know how many, maybe 60, 70 people who are here in the sanctuary, if it's anything like our last service, there was 220 screens online. So this is actually a big service, and we're doing it this way so everybody feels safe, it's intimate, and we can spread out as much as anybody is comfortable, okay? A few announcements as we get started. If you have an honor tonight, please make sure you check in with the gabbis in the front row. Leonard's in the back, but he'll be in the front in a moment. For the sanctity of Kol Nidre, I'd remind you to silence your cell phones. A reminder, mask over nose and mouth the entire time. Immediately following the Gimel service tomorrow at 2 p.m., we'll hear brief remarks from Senator John Ossoff. And then we'll hear our Yom Kippur speaker, AJC's Dov Wilker. Our healing service will be at 3:30 here in the sanctuary, led by Dr. Artie Gummer and Rabbi Scott Colbert. Rabbi Max will be leading our Mincha study session at 4:10 in the sanctuary. Yisker begins at 4:30. Ne'ilah at 5:15. And our final shofar blast will occur right around 6 o'clock. We want to say hello to Eric Jenkins, who is on the piano with us tonight. Thank you, Eric, for being here. And finally, with tremendous kavod, we want to thank our Temple Emanu-El co-presidents, our board of directors, and our amazing congregants who make Temple Emanu-El the holy place that it is. Your efforts allow the Kedusha of this place to shine. We turn to page 9. We rise as a congregation for our candle lighting. To kindle the Yontif candles, we call up Susan Wittenstein. Go ahead and light the candles. And as Susan lights the candles, our cantor will lead us in our blessings.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu להדליק נר של יום הכיפורים.
Amen. Source of blessing, eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, teaching us holiness through sacred obligations, giving us the mitzvah of bringing light on Yom Kippur.
Page 16.
Bishiva shel mala, uvishiva shel mata, bishiva shel mala,
Shiva Shemala,
uvishiva shel mata,
Shiva Shemata,
Shiva shel mala,
Shiva Shemala,
uvishiva shel mata,
Shiva Shemata,
bishiva shel mala,
Shiva Shemala,
uvishiva shel mata.
Page 19. Give us the strength to keep our promises, the sacred vows of partners and marriage, the promises of love and care between parents and children, together the promises of duty between citizens and country, the oath of doctors, the sacred trust of teachers. Give us the strength to keep our promises to our friends and colleagues, to those who live with us and depend on us, to those who work for us and those whom we work, to those who pray with us and those for whom we pray, to those we love and those we serve. Give us the courage to keep our promises to ourselves, to one another, and to future generations.
מיום כיפורים זה עד יום כיפורים הבא עלינו יחרת להול כול הול יהול שרל שוויקין שוויתין בתהילים ובבוטלים
We Jews, when we're experiencing a certain type of time, a certain type of holiness that's seasonal, we recite our Shehechianu prayer, thanking God for this moment in time that we're together, that we're here. May we have this type of experience, this type of holiness, again and again and again with Shehechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh
page 25. We come into your presence this night of Kol Nidre, aware that our shortcomings and weaknesses are many, yet encouraged by your promise of forgiveness. We choose freely the path of repentance, restoring wholeness to our lives and holiness to the world. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, creator of twilight and dusk. Page 28, Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated. We continue with V'ahavta on page 30 and 32.
בכל לבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך ושרתם להיות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem, Amen.
Page 40. Witness to this heroic might, the people thanked and praised God by name, freely accepting the reign of heaven. Then Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you this song of utter joy.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot u'sefer.
Page 49.
Tefillah is a journey. From the God of the ancients to my rock and my redeemer. On most nights, you stand on the holy summit of Tefillah and see before you a land that calls out for redemption, for healing, for peace, a world that needs you. Kol Nidre is different. Tefillah tonight is an inward journey that takes you deep within yourself, pierces you to the core. You stand on the holy summit of this Tefillah and see before you the land within, a weary soul yearning to be forgiven, longing to be loved. We rise for our Tefillah, our Amidah, page 48.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei אשר מושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה
Baruch
אדוני,
Shemo.
מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה.
Amen.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מחכה חיים וחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים, רופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. לכבוד בעל גבורות ולדאוג לך, מלך מביט ומחיה ומצליח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני,
Baruch Shemo.
מחיי הכל.
Amen.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. Return again, return again, return to the land of our souls. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul.
And we close the ark. We can be seated. Page 71. Would you join me together? On this night of atonement, grant us, God, a sense of your presence as we call upon your name together. Speak your hopeful message to each yearning heart and answer the worthy petitions of each searching soul. Purify and strengthen our noble strivings and cleanse us all of our unworthy desires. Join us together in fellowship and in love, and grant us the joy which comes from enriching other lives. Help us to be loyal to the heritage we share. Draw us near to Torah in wisdom and in faith. Strengthen our devotion to our people everywhere. Keep alive our faith in righteousness and truth. Bless us with hopes to uplift our daily lives, and keep steadfast our courage and resolve at all times. On this night of atonement, help us, God, to be worthy of your presence, and we call upon your name. Page 72.
ישראל עמך, אל קרוב לכל קוראיו בליל לבדך וחללו שפוך רוחך עלינו ותחזינה אלינו משובך לציון ברחמים ברוך אתה אדוני המחזיר שכינתו
Page 82, we begin our communal confession.
Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence. And when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done wrong. Please rise for Ashamnu.
Ay, 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 ay. Repeat after me. Ashamnu,
Ashamnu,
Magadnu,
Magadnu,
Gazalnu,
Gazalnu,
Dibarnu Dofi.
Dibarnu Dofi,
Ay, 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 ay,
Zadnu,
Hamasnu,
Hamasnu,
Tafanu Shaker,
Tafanu Shaker,
ay, 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 ay,
Yatsnura, Kizavnu, Latsnu, Maradnu, Liatsnu, Sarnu, Avinu, Ashanu, Saranu, Kishinu Orya, ay, ay, Rashanu, Shichatnu, Tiavlu,
Of these wrongs we are guilty. Together, we betray, we steal, we scorn, we act perversely. We are cruel, we scheme, we are violent, we slander. We devise evil, we lie, we ridicule, we disobey. We abuse, we defy, we corrupt, we commit crimes. We are hostile, we are stubborn, we are immoral, we kill. We spoil, we go astray, we lead others astray. At the bottom of page 86. As each harmful act is mentioned, both here and in the short confession, some worshipers gently strike their hearts with the right hand. The Midrash identifies this not as an act of self-punishment, but as a way of identifying the heart, that is, desire and impulse, as the source of sin, taking personal responsibility and showing remorse. Rabbi Israel Meir Kagan, known as the Chafetz Chaim, taught, God does not forgive us when we strike our hearts. Rather, we are forgiven when our hearts strike us. That is, when we feel the pangs of conscience for our wrongdoing.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בזדון ובשגגה, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בדיבור פה.
The ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, in harm we have caused in your world through the words of our mouths.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, באימוץ הלב, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בטיפשות פה.
The ways we have wronged you by hardening our hearts, and harm we have caused in your world through careless speech.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בכחש ובכזב, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך, ברכילות.
The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בפלילות, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בזלזול הורים ומורים.
The ways we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בביטוי פה, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בהונאת ראיה.
The ways we have wronged you through insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בחוזק יד, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך, במשא ובמתן.
The ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement.
ואו כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו, מחלנו, כפר לנו. ואו כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו, מחלנו, סלח לנו, מחלנו, כפר לנו.
As the ark comes closed, please be seated. We continue page 98. Page 106. We'll pray responsively. Our God and God of our ancestors, we are your people, and you are our God.
We are your children, and you are our Father, our Mother.
We are the people who serve you, and you call us to serve.
We are your community, and you are our portion.
We are your legacy, and you are our purpose.
We are your flock, and you are our shepherd.
We are your vineyard, and you watch over us.
We are your work, and you are our maker.
We are your beloved, and you are our lover.
We are your treasure, and you are the one we cherish.
We are your people, and you reign over us.
We offer you our words, and you offer us yours.
So forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement.
Page 13. Sorry. 106.
Top of page 106.
ואתה גורלנו, אנו צומך ואתה רואינו, אנו כרמך ואתה נוטרנו, אנו פעולתך ואתה יוצרנו, אנו רעייתך ואתה דודנו, אנו סגולתך ואתה קרובנו, אנו עמך ואתה ואתה מלכנו. אנו מאמירך ואתה מאמירנו.
Page 113. Please rise. Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice. Some of us have cancer. Some have lost strength of body. Some have lost memory and speech. Some of us are in pain. Some can't find work. Some of us bear the marks of human cruelty inside, where the scars don't show. Some live with depression. Some battle addiction. Many feel alone. Some have known shattered marriages, trust betrayed, hopes destroyed. Some of us have lost the ones we love far too soon, and some have lost a child. All of us have seen suffering in our midst. All of us know the ravages of war for which there are no words. Avinu Malkeinu, why? Avinu Malkeinu, are you there? Do you care? Avinu Malkeinu, hear our pain. Hear our anger. Hear our grief. Avinu Malkeinu, here is our prayer. Give us the strength to go on. Give us reasons to get up each day. Give us purpose and persistence. Help us to fend off fear and to hold on to hope. Help us to be kind. Don't make us bow or grovel for your favor. Give us dignity and give us courage. Avinu Malkeinu, show us the way to a year of goodness. Renew our belief that the world can be better. Restore our faith in life. Restore our faith in you. Page 115.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kol Nidre Bet. Avinu Malkeinu, Kol Nidre Bet, ki ein banu masin. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, le'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kol Nidre Bet. Avinu Malkeinu, Kol Nidre Bet, ki ein banu masin.
Our ark is closed. Go ahead. You may be seated. Once upon a time, I knew a young girl who loved her synagogue. Sometimes her family would frequently attend, and other times it would feel like months between visits. This little girl was very busy with activities, sports, and music, and later as a teen, honors and AP courses at school. One might say all of these activities kept her occupied, focused, and out of trouble. She had friends from her classes at school, but it was her friends from synagogue that she looked forward to seeing the most. After all, it's not like she and her friends from school ever went very deep into their conversation. They mostly spoke about material items, TV shows, and people. But her synagogue friends, they were with her when the rabbi asked them what they thought about God. They were there when the rabbi asked why they thought bad things happen to good people. They were there with a look in their eye for direction and safety and hope on the Rosh Hashanah after September 11th. And through this chance to gather in prayer, they grew closer. They were there at Torah study when they all had to crawl out of bed early on Saturday mornings to study some ancient text that was supposed to blow their minds, and some weeks it did. They were there during Nifty Kalot screaming their heads off with 200 other Jewish teens. They were there on the confirmation trip to New York City. And not only did they see the sights of the city, but as a class, they spent a Shabbat together, packaging and handing out meals to those in need. This time together, doing sacred work, brought them even closer. Her synagogue friends were at the confirmation service when the lights of the sanctuary were dim. Only the sounds of their own breath could be heard, as they were called one by one to the ark to receive words of blessing from the rabbi. Those moments, they just don't happen without the synagogue. All of those moments, those were the ones that sent this little girl down a spiritual path that brought deeper meaning to her life. Sure, there were the sports and the music that taught her discipline and the power of a hard work ethic. But as she grew older and those opportunities dissipated, she was left empty inside, devoid of purpose. And so she returned to the one place she could find renewed inspiration and direction. She returned to synagogue. She returned to prayer. She returned to her sacred community. And no, she didn't recognize every tune, and there were even moments of discomfort trying to remember all of the motions. But week after week, the muscle memory returned. The feelings of loneliness, life without a deeper meaning, and a lack of direction, those feelings all disappeared. Only this time, her peers weren't around her, and she longed for their return, reflecting on how much more powerful all of this could be if simply a friend or two would join her. Years later, this girl went to a new city and found herself celebrating Shabbat with her young adult peers in the same synagogue that her father became bar mitzvah 40 years prior. She was married in that synagogue space, and she became a rabbi in that synagogue space, surrounded by history, family, friends, and the spirit of her ancestors. In case you have not figured it out by this moment, that young girl, that teenage girl, that young adult, they were all me. But much more importantly, maybe that was you too at different points in the story. Or maybe it's your child today. Or maybe none of this was the spiritual path that you took or considered. My parents, they gave me so much as a child. I was privileged to have material items, opportunities, and love, but making it a priority to belong and participate at synagogue, this was perhaps one of the greatest gifts that they ever gave to me. And on this Yom Kippur, the memories come flooding back as these haunting melodies fill the space. This year, once again, it doesn't look like years past, but the power of the day is no less present. As always, it is what we make of it. Even in the digital pixels of our existence, your synagogue, our synagogue, we are here. And I believe that there are 4 reasons why we've remained strong and strengthened one another in these uncertain times. Connection, continuity, culture, and community. We'll call them the 4 C's. And these are the ways each of us can make the most of Temple Emanu-El. Reason number 1 to belong to a synagogue: connection. The synagogue connects us through meaningful relationships to our ancient texts, to our community, to God, to something bigger than ourselves. And if we've learned anything from the past 20 months of the pandemic, it is that deep relationships are what matter most in life. And I'm surprised and I'm not surprised by the number of young adults who have reached out to us in recent months. They want to see what we're all about. These are folks who just found us on the internet because they were ready to get out, to connect, and to meet people. And they knew that the synagogue would be a safe and a spiritual place to begin their search for connection. They feel safe because they know that once they walk through the synagogue doors, they will have at least one thing in common with everyone in the room. And they see the synagogue as a spiritual place because in its simplest form, the synagogue is a designated space to talk to God. And they haven't touched base with God in a while. They recognized that there was something missing from their lives. They missed having a community. Maybe you have too. Perhaps you've even asked yourself, what can I get from my synagogue membership? But Judaism transcends the consumerist approach of what can we get for our money. We're not the gym you're either using or not using. We're not the car lease you're either renewing or not renewing. And we're also not the country club where there are all the trappings of community, but lacking in the deep connection and sense of holiness. Ein kemach, ein Torah. Without sustenance, there is no Torah, no Judaism. And in many instances, including here, Torah, with a small t, is a generic catch-all for all of Jewish text, not just the 5 books of Moses. Ein kemach, ein Torah. But often not quoted is the second part of the text, which reads in the reverse: ein Torah, ein kemach. Without Torah, without Judaism, without a continual connection, there is no sustenance. Only through the synagogue does that lifelong Torah piece have the potential to begin and flourish. But you have to show up. The edifice of a synagogue can stand for a lifetime, but if no one comes inside, even when the walls are online, then they'll miss all of that sustenance, all of that Torah. Showing up inspires others to show up. Young children watch and listen to everything around them. They see when you've chosen to volunteer and spend time with your synagogue family over watching Sunday's football game that week. Torah is powerful, but connection is a two-way street. Both sides have to be active. None can be passive. Reason number 2 to belong to a synagogue: continuity. The continuity of the Jewish people is critical. The purpose of continuity shouldn't just be to continue. If we don't have a defined purpose, we should all just pack up our bags and call it a day right now. But the teachings of our Torah are a light unto the nations to build a better and more unified world. And I believe that we have brought light into the world because we were passed down a practice of study, of being in community, of discipline, of valuing human life, and working towards making the world a better place in our lifetime. The Jewish peoples, Temple Emanu-El's, our mission is to move the world from where it is to where it needs to be. That is our purpose. And to move the world from where it is to where it needs to be, we need sustained engagement. We need generational connections. We need the synagogue. Today, I see a lot of one-off experiences, pop-up events, and attempts at a la carte Judaism. These tactics capture a moment in time, but they don't bring the brighter light of Torah. They aren't the solution to Jewish continuity. By contrast, the synagogue is designed to be the place where we find support and grow in our Jewish identity from cradle to grave. Reason number 3 to belong to a synagogue: culture. The synagogue is the place for all who say, I believe in God. I have no clue what I think about God. I definitely do not believe in God. I'm not very religious. I'm more of a cultural Jew. I'm married to somebody Jewish, but I'm not. You don't need to fit into some perfectly prescribed box to be an active member of a synagogue. The synagogue is for all the ways that you do Jewish. Many of us identify as cultural Jews. Cultural Judaism is an integral part of synagogue life. Our calendars are filled with things like cooking classes, where we learn about the history of Jewish food as we cook. Classes on the ways that Jewish writers influenced Broadway. Semesters of Hebrew 101 and 102. God doesn't need to be present in every part of the synagogue for us to have a connection. And maybe you have even sat on that orange couch in my office and you told me, you're not religious. To which I've responded, it's not that you're not religious. It's that you are probably only looking at one definition of what it means to be religious. There is no reason that in 2021, when the largest Jewish movement in the United States is Reform Judaism, there's no reason for the definition of religious to come from an Orthodox perspective. Think about which aspects of Judaism you practice, the ways you are observant. Do you uphold responsible business ethics? Do you treat your spouse with respect? Are you raising children into Jewish life? Do you give back to those in need? When you encounter injustice, do you pursue justice? Do you celebrate with a wedding couple, mourn at a funeral? If you answered yes to some of these items, then I'd say that you're religious. You are observant. By being here today, you are religious. You are engaging with your religion. You are observant. You are observing Yom Kippur. Religious, observant, spiritual, cultural, all are welcome in the walls of this synagogue, wherever you are in your Jewish journey. And only through congregational life can we pass on that love to the next generation. Reason number 4, our final reason to belong to a synagogue: community. Perhaps you've overheard this conversation or even seen it play out online. Oh, a synagogue? I'm not part of that. It's so expensive. I don't really care for that rabbi. I'm part of this way cooler thing called, fill in the blank, new hip Jewish institution. Whether you have 5 kids, 1 kid, grown kids, grandkids, or no kids, the synagogue is your Jewish home as Beit Knesset, a house of assembly, as Beit Tefillah, a house of prayer, as Beit Midrash, a house of learning. From the Beit Knesset, from the house of assembly, our community decides how we will pursue justice in our world. When you move into action and volunteer with your synagogue, it's just not the same as when you volunteer with that friend of yours that you play tennis with every Monday. And that's because when you volunteer with your synagogue family, you are volunteering with people who have a history similar to yours. You've traveled with them to Israel. Your kids became B'nai Mitzvah together on the same day. Y'all went through the conversion process at the same time. You sat next to one another at a service, and you offered a tissue to your neighbor as she cried, trying to say the words of Mourner's Kaddish for her husband's first yahrzeit. That adds a whole other spiritual level to what it means to make the world a better place alongside people who have been on that journey with you. The synagogue is our Beit Tefillah, our house of prayer. Judaism makes it clear we need 10 people to recite Kaddish. We need 10 people to read from the Torah. We gather to mourn. We gather to celebrate. It's the space where the tiniest in our community enter the covenant of the Jewish people. It's the space where our youth become bar and bat mitzvah, of weddings, all of these tremendously joyous events. And it's the space that we flock to after the shooting at the synagogue in Pittsburgh. Because we understand not only the power of the sacred space, but also the power of the prayers that remind us that we are not alone. The synagogue is our Beit Midrash, our house of study. Here we learn and bring those teachings into our homes so that our mikdashei me'at, our many sanctuaries, reflect the values Judaism teaches us. Because ein Torah, ein kemach. Without Torah, there is no sustenance. If we don't start from the foundation of Torah, then we will not be able to take our world from where it is to where it needs to be. When we put together the recipe of those 4 C's, connection, continuity, culture, and community, I think we've entered a wonderful synagogue. And I believe that this is the recipe that makes Temple Emanu-El so special. Judaism is a journey that continues after one becomes bar or bat mitzvah. Now, unless you went into a science field, Your knowledge of science likely remains at best something like the 12th grade level. Although, of course, we do know that everyone on the internet today, they're all experts. But you wouldn't look for medical advice from people who stopped learning at age 18. The same is true of your Judaism. And I'm not saying everybody needs to go and become a rabbi. I'm saying that if you've ever felt sad or embarrassed, that you don't know how to answer questions that your friends, coworkers, or children ask you about Judaism, then make understanding your holidays, your prayer book, your theology, make it a priority. I am being nudgy this year. I am asking that you move yourself, that we move ourselves from where we are to where we need to be on a Jewish level. We cannot do Judaism in a vacuum. It is not a solo sport. Let your synagogue community be your team. We're here. Chazak ve'ematz, be brave and resolute, Moses says to Joshua. Come out of your comfort zone. Rearrange your schedule. Make the effort. Make it an uncancelable event. And come to that 3-part class series on a topic that interests you. Join us for that totally inconveniently timed Simchat Torah celebration. Come to a Friday night service once a month. I cannot tell you the number of times that folks have come up to me after a service or an event and they've said, you know, Rabbi, I was so tired from work that I almost didn't come, but I don't know, I decided to attend. And I'm so glad that I did. I feel refreshed. And that, my friends, that is the combined power of those 4 C's: connection, continuity, culture, and community. I'll end with a little story. It's said that in a mountain village in Europe many years ago, there was a nobleman who spent a great deal of time contemplating what legacy he would leave to the people of his town. He decided to build a synagogue. And at last, it was finished, and the townspeople came to inspect. No one could ever remember such a beautiful synagogue anywhere else in the world. And then suddenly, one of the townspeople was troubled and spoke up. Where are the lamps? Where are the lights? You forgot the lamps. How are we going to see? The nobleman then pointed to brackets, which were strategically placed all along the walls through every room and space of the synagogue. He then gave each family of the town a lamp, as he explained. Whenever you come to synagogue, I want you to bring your lamp and light it. But each time that you are not here, he said, a part of the synagogue will be dark. This lamp will remind you that whenever you are missing, some part of God's house will be dark. Your community is relying on you for light. Bring your light to our community this year. Make 5782, under all the tricky circumstances that we may face, make it a year of connection, continuity, culture, and community. We are here. Don't just help us keep the lights on. Come and be the light. Good Yontif. Friends, we continue in our service on page 116. And I believe I'm going to ask you to please rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'ateit gedula liotzer בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד.
Page 121. This holy night concludes with memory. Our last thoughts always are of those we have lost. We miss them especially tonight, yearning for their presence at our side. The service we have shared once was theirs. They spoke and sang the ancient words. They prayed, repented, and yearned for better lives, as we have done. Flawed in their deeds, imperfect in their faith, they still drew strength from their tradition as we seek fortitude in ours. What was good and beautiful in their lives once gave us joy, and now inspires us to reach higher. The knowledge that they loved us deeply brings comfort to our hearts. So we light candles of remembrance and gratitude, and we speak this timeless truth. Zichronam livracha. Their memory is a blessing, now and forever. We pray that their goodness will live on in our lives, planting seeds of kindness and hope for the generations to come. If you are in the first 30 days mourning the loss of a loved one, I invite you to please rise now at this time as we prepare for Mourner's Kaddish. If you are in the first year mourning the loss of a loved one, I invite you to please rise now at this time. And if you are commemorating a yahrzeit around this Yom Kippur, I invite you to please rise now at this time. If it is your custom to rise with those who mourn in memory of the 6 million who perished in the Shoah, and for those who have no one to say Kaddish for them, we do so now at this time, page 122, Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru.
Amen.
Yehi
Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam Ulamei Amaya.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shemei dekudesha
Richu.
Le'ela u'le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Ta'amiran be'alma v'imru.
Amen.
Yehi shlama rabba min shamaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru.
Amen.
Page 127.
Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, v'nashuva, Kadesh, Kadesh, Yameinu Kekedem. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to what you are, return to who you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul.
L'shana tova tikatevu v'techatemu. May you be inscribed and sealed for a good year.
Lishana tova tikatevu, Lishana tova tikatevu, Lishana tova, Lishana tova, Lishana tova, tikatevu, v'techatemu.
Good Yontif, everyone.
Yontif.
Thanks, Anderson. Yeah. Well, also that we could come here because we're going to be starting so late. Like, let's get some of the things.